Want to welcome you all to week 3 of our discussion on My Naked Church, as today we're discussing the topic of ministry. And just wanted to open up for discussion. Have you guys ever seen the effects in a church of far too few trying to serve far too many? And there's not enough volunteers. Have you ever seen it affect a church, and how?
Aren't all churches that way?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously?
And
the way it affects that people, some people just don't get the attention that they need, don't get the help they need.
Mm-hmm.
Or ministries don't get done that, you know, could be serving
Yeah.
community or inside the church too.
Right. Yeah. Do you think that there's a, or maybe why is a better question, do you think there's a reluctance for people to serve in churches specifically for some reason?
I think I've seen it work best, to put a positive spin on your question.
Sure.
I've seen it work best when people are invited to person rather than just organizer to someone who might help. But I've seen it better done when they're invited to help with a personal connection to whatever the project is. I think people kind of take root with that.
Right.
The other side of that is when they get worked to death and burned out,
Right.
as Lavina said in the video the other morning.
Right.
But I think a personal opportunity offered is a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily unique to the church. A lot of really worthwhile ministries, I mean, out there to serve people, are habitually short on money, habitually short on people to help, you know.
Yeah.
It's just the time we live in, or the culture we live in, or something. People are just not willing to commit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the general ratio has always been about 20% of the people do about 80% of the work, and I would say it's typically true, you know, just from observation. I don't actually know what our ratios are. I would not be surprised if our ratios were a bit higher at Northwest than that. That wouldn't surprise me, but I would still say it's probably in that range somewhere, you know.
Do you think that people hesitate because they're not sure that they know what to do, how to do it, or they need training or something?
Yeah, that's what I wonder. You know, that's a really good question about, you know, because most people really do want to be a difference maker, and they really want to serve. And I wonder if the church is letting them down in some way. You know, by the church, I mean Big C Church, you know, not just Northwest, but if the church is letting them down in some way and we're not doing a good job plugging people in, or, you know, or what the story is there, you know, how you can move more people into service.
I think making clear the opportunities that are available and giving them arms open invitation to come join,
Right.
and then the personal one-on-one invitation.
Yeah.
But I think if people are inclined to be good at a certain thing, I think they're more inclined to offer their services.
I think sometimes too we have trouble getting people because we ask for open-ended commitments. You know,
Right.
we need a
That's a
Sunday
good
school.
point.
We need a Sunday school teacher in 3rd grade.
Right.
The last one was there for 32 years.
Right.
So would you be interested?
But you're young, you could go
Would you be
longer.
interested? Yeah. And the young thing's part of it too. That was an interesting thing when I was before I got married. I was never asked to do anything.
Right.
I got married, I got a full-time job. I looked like an adult, I guess, then. Not like I do now, but anyway, for a while I looked like an adult. And then I got asked to do everything. And I kept saying yes, yes, yes. And then I did get burnt out.
Right.
And so I had to learn, you know, to limit my yeses and find places to serve. And
Right.
This observation may be unique to Northwest, and it seems to be changing. But a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, the population was older. The median population was a lot older, and now there's no excuse for ministries that like driving someone to a doctor or taking them to the grocery store or going getting groceries for them, things that aren't too physical. There's no excuse for those not being met. But when you get a work day around the building and it's a lot of cutting up a lot of trees, the ice storm brought down and things like that. At that point, there wasn't a lot of them that were physically able to do it. I mean,
Right.
seriously,
Right.
they had legitimate excuses. They just weren't able. But now the population we're getting some younger couples in and things like that. I hope that changes. I hope there's some good, strong lads that come along with a willingness to help out.
Yeah, I think there's the younger people that I talk to, I think there's definitely a willingness to serve, but in people that are brand new to church in particular, some of the people that have really never done this before, which we have, getting quite a few of those, in kind of my age demographic, they're just totally unsure of how to do it. They don't know the inner workings, and that's where I wonder if sometimes we're letting people down, is by not publicizing some of those opportunities more readily.
And what they are, Dan and I were in a church one time, and they were doing a blanket drive as part of their missions. Well, I went out and bought fabric and batting and yarn and thread and sewed up some blankets. Well, that's not what they meant at all. They just take up an offering on a certain Sunday, and with that money, they go buy blankets.
Oh,
How would you
okay.
know?
They all knew,
Right,
but as the new person, I had no idea. I
right,
didn't even know I should ask.
right. Yeah, blanket
So,
drive
yeah,
seems like
letting
that. Right.
people know what the program is all about is just a real nice tool.
Yes. Yeah, in great detail, what's
Sure.
gonna. what's
Just
gonna
like
be
no
the-
one knows what it is,
Right.
instead of assuming that everybody does.
Right, right.
And when we advertise service opportunities, maybe it'd be a little bit more fruitful if we'd include a paragraph that told just the basics, whether it's a physical job, or whether it was a duration, expected duration of it, or whether it was a job that somebody with light duty capabilities, like driving somebody to a doctor once a week or something like that.
Yeah.
If they knew a little bit more about it up front, and even if there's any unique qualifications, that, let them know that up front.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I feel like that hasn't been great kind of about my tenure here so far is, my heart beats with a passion for people to serve their community. And I think in the process, the last couple of years of really pushing that, I think we have neglected this home front side of things. And that we haven't done a great job letting people know about the ministries involved within the church. And the Bible talks a lot about meeting the needs of each other, not just meeting the needs of the people outside. And so we're trying to brainstorm some ways to do that better, and hopefully people will get involved as a result of it.